new scientific expedition is exploring one of the most distant and dangerous archaeological sites on Earth. The site is 2.5 miles below the surface of the ocean. It is the site of the RMS Titanic. Newly invented research tools will let us see Titanic like never before. Archaeologists will write a new chapter in Titanic's fabled history. And they will attempt the impossible, to raise a piece of Titanic's massive hull. It is a race against time, a battle against the elements, a dangerous expedition that pits man against nature. This is an elite French research vessel, the Nadir. It is ground zero, mission control for this archaeological expedition. Captain Michel Umar positions the Nadir directly over the site. 12,000 feet below rests the greatest sunken ship of all time, RMS Titanic. In the control room, software engineer Alexei Push reviews the archaeological site.
This software can represent a virtual view of what's going on the bottom.
Push's program gives him a three-dimensional view of the site, 2.5 miles below Nadir. When the Titanic sank, she violently and mysteriously snapped in half. Her bow now lies more than 1/2 mile away from her stern. Near the stern lies a large piece broken from Titanic's hull, which is the focus of the expedition.
The mission today, the mission of the morning, is to go to the piece, and the piece, a big piece of metal is here, this piece.
This is the Nautil, a one-of-a-kind submersible that's capable of diving to the Titanic's sunken depths. Her robotic arms are nimble, and they will be used to tie the hull piece to hoisting lines. Within this titanium sphere, there is a complete life support system capable of sustaining a 3-man crew for 72 hours. Nautil is a unique mix of space age and Stone Age technology. To get to the bottom, pilots rely on old-fashioned weight. More than 1,000 pounds of lead shot are loaded on board. To help the pilots see, she's equipped with a robotic camera named Robin.
So that's Robin. It's quite like a camera. It's an eye, in fact, for Nautil, but it's a remote eye. For example, when you want to go in a wreck and you know it's too dangerous for Nautil to go inside, you can use Robin.
George Tulloch is the expedition leader. Tulloch's company, RMS Titanic, is responsible for conserving the historic ocean liner, which is rapidly decaying. By preserving a piece of her hull, he hopes to keep the memory of Titanic alive.
We need a guardian for this wreck. We need somebody to protect this maritime heritage, and we need someone to care about the archaeology. It's a piece of our history, and it's just special in every direction.
To coordinate the expedition, Tulloch has chosen P.H. Nargeolet, a former French Navy commander. His mission today? Gauge the size of the piece. Knowing size and weight is critical for raising the artifact.
I'm a diver, and for the divers to dive on the Titanic is like a dream. And since I'm very young, I know the story of the Titanic.
Diving to Titanic may be a dream, but the dream can turn into a nightmare should something go wrong. The pressure at 2.5 miles deep is bone-crushing. 10,000 pounds every square inch. And all that will protect Nargeolet is Nautile's 4-inch thick titanium shell.
What you're asking Nautile to do for you is to protect you from an environment that is just so hostile. There's no time to say, Houston, we have a problem. You'll be dead before you know that you're dying. If pressure breaches, it's a nanosecond, and it's an implosion, and you're in the center of it.
In the sea, the Nautile is unhooked from her tethered lines. And now she's free. In the control room, the software tracks Nautile in real time. But if she gets into trouble, there's little that can be done from here. Alone, Nautile begins the 2-hour descent to the bottom.
Yes, of course, there is a lot of potential danger because this kind of sub, there is only one, and it's a prototype. And you know that for a car or for anything, a prototype is not very easy to work very well.
In several minutes, the sunlight disappears from the ocean. Blackness takes over, and the Nautile continues to drop on its way to Titanic. At the turn of the century, Titanic was the largest moving object ever built. Her propellers were larger than a house. Her engines 4 stories tall. Her design was so advanced, she was thought to be unsinkable. Titanic was the most luxurious liner the world had ever seen. For many, she was proof of man's superiority to nature. Passengers for her maiden voyage were among the most notable of the era. Benjamin Guggenheim, mining magnate. Isidor Straus, founder of Macy's. Real estate tycoon John Jacob Astor and his bride. Also on board were hundreds of immigrants anxious to start new lives in a new world. 4 nights into the journey, on a black, moonless night, Titanic struck an iceberg. Within 3 hours, the greatest ocean liner ever built was sinking to the bottom of the ocean, signaling an end to an era. The ocean bottom is like another planet, enveloped in darkness. The life here exists without sunlight. To biologists, it's a wonder, a mystery. Titanic is a surreal addition to this landscape. When she came to rest here, she plowed into the mud, burying her hull. This anchor should be nearly 50 feet off the ground. This is the debris field. It is littered with objects that poured from Titanic as she sank. Near the stern, the Nautil approaches the hull piece. In order to raise this artifact, its weight must be gauged. The first step is to accurately measure the piece.
I think it's good to recover artifacts, because when the artifacts are up on the surface, they continue to live, and the Titanic live again.
By retrieving this artifact, at least one section of this great ship will be preserved for future generations. Where did this piece come from? Who might have looked out from these portholes? David Livingstone is a naval architect who has unique insight into Titanic. He works for the shipyard, Harland and Wolff, that built the great ocean liner. Livingstone is attempting to gauge the artifact's weight. First, he examines the steel beams. The number and length will greatly influence the piece's mass. Next, he examines the window placement and rivet patterns. Livingstone tries to find the piece on a copy of Titanic's original design plans. It was thought that these drawings were lost. Only recently have they been shared with the public. His first calculations put the piece at 8 tons. But then he makes a discovery. On the piece, there are several areas called doublers, where the steel overlaps. The doublers increase the weight to about 17 tons. Later that night, Livingstone pins down the location of the piece. He shares the news with historians Charles Haas and Jack Eaton.
And here we are in here. So there's nine windows.
Right.
All match up. But there are other clues, because you see these doublers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 doublers on the inside, and there's only one position on the ship where there is a shell doubler, and it coincides with a channel frame.
A beam.
Right. So we think I'm fairly certain that's it.
The hull piece is from the starboard side of C deck.
Okay. Well, it's between frame 30 and frame 37.
Jack, can you go to the deck plans? This is the reciprocating engine housing. Let's use that as a line.
Haas and Eaton try to determine which rooms it came from.
Want to take us through it?
The cabins that are associated with that area are C-79 and C-81.
Okay. Do we know who was in those?
Well, we can find out. Let's see if we have that on our list. That's C-79 and C-81.
After checking the passenger list, they discover that both rooms were empty.
Who occupied what cabins? I can tell you who were in some of the adjacent cabins. That would be Mr. and Mrs. Henry Harris would have been right next door, the theater producer. We come down here, W.T. Stead would have been just down the hall, and they were not only fairly prominent, but also fairly affluent.
Right.
So if you had occupied C-79 or C-81, you would have been in very good company indeed.
Yes.
The crew of Nadir has a unique plan for lifting the hull piece to the surface. The plan relies on a simple but ingenious technology that they helped to develop. The piece will be attached to towing lines. The lines will be attached to lift bags. The lift bags will rise through the water, carrying the hull piece to the surface. This lift bag will be filled with nearly 5,000 gallons of diesel fuel. Diesel is lighter than water, which will make the bag extremely buoyant. 25 tons of chain will be used to take the bag to the bottom. The chains will be connected to this cylinder, called a transponder. When the transponder receives an acoustic signal, it will release this red clasp, dropping the weight and freeing the bags. Once the bag has been filled with fuel, it's sent on its way to the bottom. On the bottom, in total darkness, the lift bags arrive one at a time. There are dozens of ropes, each a potential snare for Nautile's propellers. Inside Nautile, Nargeolet and his team are always on the lookout. Their view is greatly limited by a tiny 6-inch window. Carefully, they take each rope and begin to hook it to the hull piece. Rigging the piece will take several days of intense work under hostile conditions. At the end of each shift, before resurfacing, the crew explores the debris field, looking for artifacts. Today, Nargeolet makes an amazing find. Among cups and saucers, he discovers a very personal item. It's a suitcase that was packed for Titanic's maiden voyage. What part of Titanic's story will this case tell? When Nargeolet returns to the surface, archaeologist Stéphane Pennek gets to work.
We did start working on the artifact from the wreck of the Titanic in '87. When you find an object on the Titanic seabed, it's just lying down like 84 years ago. There's nothing changed on it. And that's very impressive, and that's very unusual in comparison of all the archaeological site I did work on.
Conservation begins like detective work. Pennek's partner, Martine Plantec, measures the suitcase and explores the contents.
The suitcase is apparently and for sure suitcase from a man. And there's every clothes that you could expect. 4 pants, 3 shirts, 2 jackets, 2 pair of gloves.
The clothing style suggests third class. The passenger was of average weight and build. Sharp folds and creases in his clothing show an attention to detail.
When you excavate and you find something, you're just thinking about what happened at that time and who was that guy who packed so well his luggage and all his pants and suit. And when you start thinking about it, it's very emotional, it's very sensitive. And for me and for most of the people, that's maybe the most important thing by recovery all the artifacts.
When the initial investigation is over, the bag is repacked for further restoration in Pennek's lab in France. The following day, the French ship Ocean Voyager arrives on site to join the expedition. She's carrying precious cargo. 4 state-of-the-art light towers, which will be deployed on the bow of Titanic. The towers were designed by cinematographers Christian Petron and Alex Lindsay. With the light towers, scientists, engineers, and archaeologists will have a new research tool. Never before has so much light been cast on Titanic. Today, Lindsay will use a prototype submersible to test the lights.
It's incredible, this system.
The sub can go to depths of more than 3,000 feet.
Yes.
If the sub drops any deeper, the 5-inch thick plexiglass bubble will implode, crushing the passengers.
Sure, okay. Yeah.
This morning, there's some concern among the crew. The last time the sub was out, it mysteriously dropped to the bottom. Luckily, the water was shallow. Today, the bottom is more than 2 miles straight down.
This is a fantastic submarine.
A few moments ago, one of the lights was lowered into the water. The tower weighs 3 tons, and a single lift bag struggles to keep it from sinking. Lindsay takes a moment to survey the tower.
Let's hope this thing works.
Okay.
I think it's gonna work.
Yes, of course.
Satisfied, they trigger the acoustic signal to switch on the lights.
Let's try the sonar.
There's the sonar coming on. It's like being in a James Bond movie, I think.
For the next several moments, the lights warm up and Lindsay does an inspection. He's concerned about potential battery leakage that would lead to light failure.
I can't see any leaks of oil. That system seems to have worked out okay. Well, it's great to see them working. There's one lamp which has a problem, but these have been a real labor of love, these lights, and it's good to see them working. Of course, the real test will be at 4,000 meters on Titanic.
If I have 4 lights, I put 4 lights.
The towers throw more light than 35,000 household bulbs.
90 degrees.
Where to place the lights is undecided.
And I have, with 4 lights, all bridge, all... Okay, now,
How do we, whether it's with silhouette or whether it's with one tower over here or back lighting, how do we maximize our opportunities because of all the things you've mentioned, Alex?
I think, personally, the way we're going to actually light up the whole ship effectively will be done if we can place the lights equidistant 25 meters apart and actually have them shining in towards the camera. So what you're effectively seeing is the shape of the ship rather than detail. I think that's the way to get the biggest area. That would give the maximum visible area of the bow, and then you'd see individual pieces of it in more clarity, but it won't be on such a scale. But it's kind of all fairly experimental because nobody's ever built these tower lights.
At the Titanic site, the conditions can be very hostile. Silt can make it impossible to see. 10,000 pounds of pressure per square inch can pulverize a flawed bulb. Freezing temperatures can wear on battery life. And the currents can blow a 3-ton light like a kite. Pétron will be the first to shoot Titanic under the glow of the prototype lights.
If I have a time, I take a picture with a Mamiya. Yeah. Go break your leg.
At the site, Pétron begins to prepare for his portrait of Titanic. First, he uses a homing device to find each light. And then he moves it into position.
Tu as baissé les projets au maxi là?
To raise the light, these weight bags will be cut. To lower the light, weight bags are added. From the bridge, Perche monitors Pétron's progress. Once all the lights are in position, Pétron uses the acoustic triggering system to turn the lights on.
People have seen little bits of the ship, and they've never seen a really big chunk of it. When I saw the shots of the engines, I realized that we had a bigger chunk of Titanic. Those two lights streaking down, it looked, you know, something out of, you know, an Aliens movie or something like that. And it's just tremendously exciting. Here is the real stuff.
For the first time, the veil of darkness has been lifted from large sections of Titanic. These new views may lead to new understanding. The lights have proven to be a great success, and now all attention returns to the hull piece. It is time for the piece to be raised. The following morning, Nargeolet is diving. All of the lift bags have been attached to the artifact. And Nargeolet is using Robin for a final inspection. As the team works, they make an alarming discovery.
Nadir de Nautil.
It's bad news.
So the Robin made a first survey of the large piece, and it seems that the large piece didn't move, but was bent like that. It was at the beginning straight like that, and now it's bent like that with the lift bags pulling on the, which is a news which is not very good, which means that if we are putting extra lift on this part, maybe the piece either will lift from one side, either will broke in the middle. So it's not a very good news, and we're going to investigate further.
As Nargeolet explores the rigging, things move from bad to worse. The largest lift bag is missing.
We have a black sheet as well, no?
5,000 gallons of diesel fuel are drifting in the North Atlantic. The bag has to be found.
Yes, John, I think it's a good idea to go enter the big bag. Of course, it will be very difficult. Over.
Yeah, my gut tells me that's what the captain wants to do, and he thinks he can find it. So you've got no Robin, so why don't we bring up Nautil, over?
To search for the bag, the crew has to rely entirely on visual sighting. The bag's homing device isn't working. And even a large lift bag can disappear in the vast sea. Back on Ocean Voyager, the crew is running into trouble of their own. They are raising the lights to recharge the batteries, when suddenly, disaster strikes. One of the lights plummets to the bottom of the ocean. The expedition has run into terrible luck. A critical lift bag is missing. And a light tower has crashed to the bottom of the sea. The following day, an audience has assembled in the North Atlantic. Two cruise ships, the Royal Majesty and Island Breeze, are carrying passengers who have come to take part in the expedition. They are here to witness history, to watch a piece of Titanic be raised. Edith Hazeman is also here, as is Michel Navratil. Both are Titanic survivors who have come to pay tribute to lost family. The Jim Killebuck has arrived from St. John's, Newfoundland. It is here to pull the hull piece from the sea and onto its fantail. Down below, at the Titanic site, there's some unexpected good news. The fallen light tower is found several hundred feet from the bow. Remarkably, the light is in very good condition, and it will be recovered later. Next, the Nautile moves to the hull piece. Several lift bags are added to make up for the lost bag. The job complete, Nautile moves back for a first attempt to lift the piece. An acoustic signal is triggered. When the water clears, the artifact has been dislodged from the ocean floor.
Fish! On the bottom, the piece move at all?
Yes, the piece is vertical, and it's just moving on the big beam. And now with maybe 2 tons or something like that, it will come up. So when you went back...
The dive we had today was quite a bit more successful than the dive we had yesterday.
Yeah, everything is okay.
That's the first significant lifting reaction we've had, and so it indicates that we're getting close to understanding the piece in a way that would kind of give us an indication of how much more work we have to do to get that piece to the surface.
The following day, a final attempt is made to raise the hull piece. With the Nautile a safe distance from the piece, a signal is sent from Nadir to trigger the additional bags.
I wish we had that three-ton lift bag. But we put a lot more in than we took out, so we've given it everything we've got.
In the control room, Tulloch watches and waits to see if the piece will rise.
We're making the final decision.
She is jumping. Is this right? Is this right? Look at it, look at it, look at it. Come on, get in here, Jack.
Tulloch's celebration is short-lived.
Why is it on the bottom? I think it's staying stable. She doesn't seem to be moving. She seemed to, for a second, go up to 3682, but she's back down to 3701 meters. There's 2 triggers that haven't triggered off.
A piece of history, it appears, will remain forever on the bottom of the ocean. As the control room falls silent, a memorial unfolds on the deck of the Island Breeze. "84 years later, memories are unlocked. Survivors pause to reflect on a moment that forever changed their lives.
There is something down.
At sea, the unexpected is the norm. As if to show itself during the tribute, a piece of Titanic begins to rise.
There is something down.
Right now, 11 o'clock off from here. I'm about to go down below and get one. Over. Back on 36.
The Killabuck races into action. As the lift bags break the surface, days of doubt and frustration give way to hope.
If I saw the big piece on the deck of the Jim Killabuck, probably I will fall down and I kiss the deck of the ship, you know.
Well done. This is the easy bit.
Yeah, we'll see what's down there. So far, everybody wants to see where the medal is. We haven't seen anything lying yet.
This is an historic moment. A piece of Titanic has risen from the ocean floor. Suspended by ropes, the hull piece teases the recovery team. It dangles 200 feet below, just out of reach. On the horizon, a new threat is looming.
But you know we have a bad weather system coming in. A low, very fast low is coming up the coast.
Hurricane Edouard has broken out of the Caribbean and taken aim at the North Atlantic. Violent seas now twist and pull at the lift bags.
Okay, let's get it onto our, is that the main line?
The hull piece is bogged down and unwieldy. All hands work to hold on to the Titanic.
Double line, not one line. It's not enough, one line.
A shared part of history hangs in the balance.
Come on, John.
I don't know. We all wish that Super Bowls were good games, and this is kind of like you know, the game should be a good game in the fourth quarter and the second half, the last 2 minutes. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 24 hours.
The underside of the rope is already starting to melt. The underside of the rope is starting to melt.
Ropes and nerves are beginning to fray.
PH, this rope is crap. This rope is crap.
Get
One is broken, one is okay.
Get on the bridge. Get on the bridge.
Ropes snap one by one. The piece is seriously close to dropping to the bottom.
We're just making sure we're taking the right decision on how to secure this piece so we don't lose it at this critical time. We realize the pressure that it puts on your staff up on the bridge and on the island breeze, and we are working as quickly as we can. Over.
The weather is getting too rough. The cruise ships have to make a run for land.
There is another alternative.
Yeah.
Scary.
Captain Mike Strong offers Tulloch and Nargeolet one final possibility.
We could tow this slowly into Wales.
In shallow water?
Where would you go? Halifax?
No.
Nearest point of land.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nearest point, which is
60 miles in the north.
But what happens after is that then we can take more risk with heaving it up. If we lose it, you've lost it in 100 meters.
Let's do it. Yes, bungo. What's back? 3, 4.
On the bridge, they chart a new course for the shallow waters of Canada's Grand Banks. A destination they would never reach. Late that night, as the ship ferries north, the sea reclaims a piece of Titanic. Again, she rests on the bottom, 10 miles from the spot where she was first retrieved. Before this great ship disappears and is resigned to memory, there is still much we want to learn. The investigation has just begun.